Today we are learning basketball with Yash Kumar. You can find him on Twitter at MathKitBall1. He is the video and analytics coordinator for Cal Poly's men's basketball team. And in an epic showdown, we have the host of the Beyond the Arc 8 pod versus the handle Beyond the RK. Only one Beyond the Arc is coming out alive, Yash. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, who's the superior one? Yeah, we'll find out today.
That's what this episode's all about is finding the true Beyond the Arc. And then, of course, also the NBA playoffs. Just an epic playoffs. We got a game 7. Didn't quite live up to the hype, but we still got the game 7. Oklahoma City versus the Denver Nuggets. Super fun and cool to see the Thunder kind of make that next step on their ascension towards contending as they're doing. And we're going to hit on a little bit of Pacers-Cavs as well, see what worked for the Cavs, what didn't work for the Cavs, how the Pacers came out on top in that series, and thought we might end it with a little preview of these final 4 teams, the conference finals matchups, and just any notes or thoughts on the series in general to end the pod here. But I thought we might start with a little bit of your background and just wanted to kind of hear your story, your perspective of how you got into basketball and your journey to where you're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks for having me on the pod. I'm a big fan. It's learning basketball is in my rotation, and for those listening, absolutely should be in your guys's if this isn't already.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so to touch on my background, grew up in the Bay Area, so I'm a big Warriors fan, and so the first ever basketball game I watched on TV was Warriors Clippers Game 7 in the first round back in 2014. Incredible series, and unfortunately the Warriors couldn't pull through, but it really gave me a glimpse of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, what was to come, and it opened my eyes to just the joy of basketball. And so I was fortunate enough over the next couple of years to fall in line with the Warriors rise and see them winning titles, which made it really easy to be a fan for sure. But it showed me the joys that come with basketball, ball movement, getting a whole team involved, obviously the scoring. It really opened my eyes into that, and that's really where it started. So it was more so me watching than playing, which for a lot of people it's not necessarily the case. And then as my passion and interest in basketball grew, it expanded to the entire NBA over those next few years. Start watching all the teams, and especially come the bubble when there really wasn't much to do for myself besides watch basketball. That really opened up my overall interest in the league. And from there, it kind of grew to analysis. I wanted to share my thoughts, and social media was the best way to do that. And so, Twitter, Instagram, I started a few outlets to share my thoughts on the game. And, after following some great accounts, Todd Whitehead was a major inspiration of mine who built some great data visuals. I know you do as well, Ryan. That really that's sort of where I wanted to take my analysis to the data and eventually the film side. And after coming to college, was fortunate enough to have enough of a background to where I was able to join as a student manager, and then eventually a video coordinator, video and analytics coordinator. And it's been my dream to help a program win basketball games. It's been a lot of fun.
No doubt. That's an awesome story, awesome background. Appreciate the kind words, and shout out Todd at Crumpled Jumper, one of the best data viz generators out there. He actually his name came up the most when I did the coolest data viz basketball has ever made. His name was far and away, running away with it. So shout out Todd. He's always making just unique, interesting ideas, and just cool, like really opened my eyes at least to how data viz doesn't have to be just an XY chart on a scatter, like a graph out of your math homework, and like with where the papers are all grid lines and everything. Like it could actually be visualized literally like art, like an art style, and you can use physical things to visualize numbers and data. And it just really opened my eyes to the creativity behind the art style of it all. So definitely super interesting, super cool there. And just to follow up a little bit, I'm not sure what you can actually talk about with your position there, but what's it like, getting to live out the dream of helping a team win basketball games and helping them on the video and analytics side of things? Like, are you able to come up with different data viz analytics type reports? Are you working with players, coaches, scouts, everybody? Like, what's, if you can dive into that role at all, I'd love to hear a little more.
Absolutely. So it's a little bit of everything on the film and analytics side. Mostly my work goes to the coaches. So whether that be for games, helping put together certain stats, analytics that convey a theme for our scouts. A lot of that, a lot of my work goes into that. Whether it be putting together reports of some kind showing those analytics, or putting together film edits that make it to our film sessions. It's sort of a culmination of that. And again, I'm grateful to this coaching staff. They've given me the opportunity to dip my toes in all aspects of the program. So I've even been able to work with the players. I'm on the court in practices, especially right now in the spring. It's the chance for the players to build their skills and develop as players. And I've been involved in drills, that kind of thing as well. So it's sort of a little bit of everything from all aspects of what's a basketball organization. So from game strategy to development, roster building, player development. I've been able to have an impact in all areas, film and analytics. So yeah, it's short answer is a little bit of everything, film and analytics wise, which has been great.
Yeah, it sounds super interesting, and just getting to wear different hats and just show up and fill whatever role the team needs of you. Like any good role player would need to be a part of the team. And we could dive into some of these series here. We got we got to start with Game 7. I mean, they're the two best words in sports. It might have not quite lived up to the Game 7 of it all, but we still got a good first half there at the very least, where we kind of thought it could go either way. I mean, at a certain point, it just felt like between the Thunder and the Nuggets here, the athleticism of the Thunder was just on another level. Like it just felt like they were playing a different sport by the end of it, just
Right.
running them off the floor, like overwhelming them. Like Christian Brown could kind of like he could hang with that pace and that speed, but that seemed to be it when it comes to Denver's team. Like they shout out Caruso, man. That's the first one where he's just absolutely lockdown defender. I feel like if he played all year long and had enough games and was thought of as like the face of this defense, he could have been the Defensive Player of the Year award. I mean, you could have given it to almost any Thunder player, but he's right there where like you have elite defenders across the roster, and he still stands out for being like an insane point of attack lockdown guy. And then all of a sudden they'll just throw him on Jokic down low to like, and he holds his own, or at the very least can kind of like use his body size and frame to maybe draw fouls while you use all that length with help defense around him. So you kind of bother Jokic that way. I can't find the exact stat, but it seemed kind of an obvious game plan is don't let Jokic get the ball. And it feels like the Thunder's game plan was to limit his touches. And I saw that in two of their biggest losses of the whole season, Jokic had maybe, if not the least amount of touches, close to the lowest touches he'd seen in any game this season. So like clearly that was a working strategy that just kind of worked out in the last game. Shout out Aaron Gordon fighting through the pain to play the actual game and show up and give it his all. And I'm thankful that he didn't get hurt trying to do that, but they just didn't have enough firepower. And if you take the touches away from Jokic and AG's hurt, you're missing a little bit of that playmaking. Like, where's the offense going to come from? So I think that game plan ultimately worked out, and they took as many Jokic haymakers as they could, and they just kind of outlasted them in this Game 7, where it really was a competitive series until this point, other than one or two maybe blowouts here and there. But it was really a great all time fun series. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about if you had any thoughts or takeaways from this series and this Thunder team after knocking out Denver.
Right. I think you hit the main point. The OKC defense on Jokic. Like again, he's so cerebral and dominant of a player where you could try one game plan against him, it's not going to work. You could try three more, it's still not going to work. And it took like you said at the end, OKC exhausting all 5 players on the court, geared towards not allowing him to touch the ball for them to be able to stop Jokic and his impact on Denver. And again, I think that speaks to OKC's defensive versatility as well, where you're able to, because of your personnel, employ all sorts of these different coverages and try different things until you find a winning formula. And not many teams have the luxury of being able to do so. And again, once again, that speaks to their team. Like in game 4, I believe, the game that went to overtime, they tried going small, and ultimately that didn't work out for them. Denver was able to pick them apart. But in this game, they went back to playing the small lineup, and Caruso, this time with Caruso and Jokic, and it ended up paying dividends. So, sometimes that's coaching, like being able to, it's not just about the lineup combinations, but how you use certain players and what kind of roles they serve, and that makes the ultimate difference. So I think that was my biggest takeaway. Like OKC, they're such a well-oiled machine on both sides of the ball, and particularly defensively, where they have the luxury of being able to play all these different coverages and give their players different roles.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the depth and the talent is versatility. All of it is just obscene when it comes to the defensive talent on this roster. I mean, a guy like Cason Wallace, like hardly would get mentioned, but like he stood out where, like, he'd be a great defender on most teams, and I don't even know if he'd make the top 5 on this team because of how many incredible elite defenders there are. But what really stands out about this Thunder team is obviously the defense is overwhelming. They have plus defenders at every position, if not elite defenders at every position. And they all know their role offensively. Like there is a clear pecking order here where Shea's the guy and Jalen Williams has, carved out the number 2, and Chet's ascending, but he hasn't quite, overtaken that number 2 spot where they're both comfortable being secondary options in that sense, where neither of them are, so hungry for scoring that they're disrupting the offense or something like that. So, and that's a credit to Presti finding the talent and also finding talent that fits, and, utilizing the cap space to bring in Isaiah Hartenstein on what might be a slight overpay, or it's just worth the impact that he brings. And, if that's how you're going to allocate, if you have extra salary to use and you clearly have a position of need and he fills that position best, like that's how you use the salary and utilize the most out of it, even if it's not for, say, like a Kevin Durant, like you won the big free agency prize, like he still was probably the best defender, one of the best free agents. And I know it's a while back now, but it just goes to show how much like foresight is that goes into, like, yeah, Presti has collected all these young players, prospects, picks, but he's also using the salary cap in smart ways to get the most value out of every dollar. And if you have a little extra money to spend and you have some clear needs that you have to address, and you found a player that addresses those needs, then it works out that you can kind of use that as its own asset to bring in a talent like that without having to kind of mortgage your future to do it. So shout out to Presti just for finding these types of players, but just in the game itself, just a lot of fun. Kind of seeing the Thunder it feels like they fully realized how great they are, or just like fully like lived it out. Like maybe they never had a doubt to begin with, but you felt that full defense, that athleticism in this one, where I mentioned Cason Wallace, like they were throwing alley oops to Chet, and Isaiah Hartenstein were running the floor. Like that stood out to me. Their effort rim rolling was just dominant on the rebounds, the putbacks, the alley oops, just running the floor, looking to finish. Like this team came to play, and that's how it goes. I'd say most of the marquee plays were like pick sixes or like a steal on one play, 4-point swing on the other play. So those are some of the big ones that stood out to me, and mostly in that second quarter to end the first half, they went on a 14-2 run in 2.5 minutes. That really just felt like the Thunder are here. Like it might only be a 12-point lead, but like this is a teetering on a blowout any minute. Like they could not have more momentum after just constant turnovers and transition buckets. And then SGA hits like a nasty ISO step back 3 in the third quarter too, to kind of like exclamation point on it all. So shout out the Thunder, man. They did the thing. They beat Jokic, which I think is right up there after the NBA Finals as like the hardest thing anyone has to do in the playoffs is knock out the team with Jokic. So yeah, was there anything else about the Thunder and this series, or even Denver, that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I was looking through cleaning the glass, just their Game 7 stats, see if anything popped, and there are a couple stats I want to point out. So you mentioned the turnovers. OKC forced Denver into turning it over on 25% of their possessions in Game 7. That's a remarkable amount. And also conversely and relatedly so, 25% of OKC's possessions came out of transition. So again, that pretty much sums it up in terms of how they play. Like they're gonna force you into tough decisions, force you to turn the ball over. And as you mentioned, with their size, youth, and athleticism, they have the capability to run you down and get easy buckets in transition. So I think Minnesota, like that's sort of what they have to look forward to. They're going to have probably the toughest defensive matchup so far in terms of going up against that group and all their different matchups. So it'll be interesting to see how they fare.
Oh yeah, and I figure we'll dive a little more into that series to end the pod here. But shifting gears a little to Cavs Pacers, you wrote this great piece on the Cavs a month or two back now, March 26th, and I'll pull it up here for us to walk through a little bit on how they create space for their scorers, and that's definitely something that really stands out when you're watching this Cavaliers team, especially in the regular season, where it's I guess I don't want to compare a team to like the Warriors, but just the idea that when you have a well-oiled machine and everyone just knows where to be and knows like which angles to play, knows where their teammates are going to be, like the Cavs were an absolute machine humming along this year until those injuries hit. And we got to credit the Pacers. They played the team in front of them. They hunted, the mismatches. They ran them off the floor with pace, and they got the lucky break in terms of the injury luck was definitely not in the other, or it was definitely in their favor compared to their opponents in this series. And that's sometimes all you need is to be the last healthy, good team standing, and also take advantage of whatever opportunities that opens up. Like if they're missing some of their best players, that you gotta just attack that and take it. There are no excuses. Next man up. But the still want to shout out the Cavs this season because they were just incredible all year, and something about this offense felt different. And from my point of view, it's Evan Mobley's playmaking. It's the coaches giving the ball to Mobley and unleashing him as a downhill kick out, drive and kick force, especially in transition, giving him the ball, seeing him handle it coast to coast, basically him being a moving handoff hub for all these guards, like a rescreening hub, just a lot of interesting playmaking stuff. So I'm interested to see how that kind of ties into your analysis here on how the Cavs create space for the Shores throughout this season.
Yeah, absolutely. My focus was more so on their guards because, as you mentioned, Evan Mobley definitely took a step up this past season, and he was an all-star, rightfully so. But just in general, Cleveland didn't have, outside of I guess Evan Mobley took a step up, but speaking in terms of roster continuity, they really didn't have too many changes to the rotation, at least outside of Ty Jerome, of course. But the starting lineup remained the same. A lot of their core depth pieces were the same looking at last year to this season. But again, they had such a heavy jump in terms of offensive rating. They're 16th in offense last season, number one this season. So and I felt like a major aspect to that was their spacing. I think that they improved that at a high level. And one aspect to that was in their pick and roll. As many teams in the NBA are today, like they're a heavy pick and roll based team, and I think they just did a great job of implementing a system that gave their ball handlers more space to operate. Because Mitchell, Garland, those guys are talented scorers. It makes sense to tilt the floor in a way that benefits them. So getting into the article here, a major aspect and a theme that we've been seeing in the NBA and across basketball is teams really shrinking the floor, especially at the wings and at the nail. Teams are increasingly showing help in the gaps, as we see in this clip right here. If you wouldn't mind clicking on that, yeah. on this drive, Garland is seeing a gap defender. This is a common theme last year, trying to take away the comfort and the space he has in the driving lane. And a lot of times that turns it that even if it didn't result in turnovers, it forced early pickups of the dribble, didn't let them get downhill and really force the defense to rotate, and made decisions more complicated. So this past season, Cleveland implemented what I'm calling the wheel. Other people have other names for it. I'm sure they have their own name for it. But essentially, whenever a pick and roll drove towards a two side, so basically a side with two players on the perimeter, they had a system where a system of cutting and relocating that would free up space on the wing. So if you wouldn't mind scrolling down here. Yes. So this screenshot is an example where we saw prior there was an offensive player in the space that Garland is driving towards. They basically wanted more situations where that wing would now be empty, so Garland could attack as well as their other ball handlers in an area where they have space. So the way that sort of works, if you wouldn't mind scrolling down, let's see if we can find it here. Okay, yeah. So this was so they had traditional ways of freeing up the wing or vacating the wing. Double drag is an action many of you have heard, where it's just two players coming up the screen, and so basically instead of a player spacing and potentially bringing in a defender, now they're being involved in the action. So in that way, that helps create space. So as we see here, Garland attacks off the double drag. Both of the wings are vacant or free, and Garland has space to get into the elbow area and get up a floater. So they have different ways of getting into it as well. We can watch this one if we'd like. So the recurring theme here, as we even see in this play, is the wings are free. Like they're no longer are there enough possessions where there's increasing gap resistance. So I think we could scroll past this one. This is just another example of that. But I think this is the most unique implementation of freeing up the wing. It's what I call the wheel. So basically, playing this clip here, I think that demonstrates the example. So on any kind of ball screen that goes towards a two side, which again is just a side that has two players, offensive players spaced, as we see in the clip. They had a system of cutting where essentially the player on the wing that would initially have the gap defender, they'd be able to slide down to the corner, and the corner would cut baseline, which would in turn free up the wing. And so the Cavs have a lot of ball handlers, again, Mitchell, Garland, Jerome, that thrive in that in-between area, and vacating the wing gives them that space to get to their spots. So I didn't see it as anything complicated. It's more just a structured way that they're able to free up spacing in areas where you didn't have to draw up a play. Like a lot of these instances, it was just sort of recognition by the players on the court. Like, hey, I'm on a two side. Let me tell the guy in the corner to cut, so the ball handler would have space. It was reads that they could make within the flow of the offense, which is also a really important aspect.
What's interesting is I believe I was just going to say this reminds me of the Grizzlies earlier this season had another concept also called the wheel that might have been some similar kind of drive and kick relocation type of stuff going on. So I was wondering if that came up when you were doing any of this research, that maybe you noticed some of the Grizzlies actions as well, or any similarities with that, or maybe not. But back on Christmas Day, actually, I broke it down with Adam Pike on the Grizzlies and their wheel concept. He had interesting shout there. So shout out Adam there. And was just wondering if you noticed any similarities.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'd recommend checking out Adam's piece on it, and as well as your pod with him. And I think I could be mistaken, but I believe the Cavs and the Grizzlies follow a similar coaching tree. There's some influence within those coaching staffs, and so like I think you're exactly right. There is a lot of similar thinking of creating space. I'd say that the major difference is that the Grizzlies tried a no screen offense, and a lot of it was the similar wheel, creating gaps and driving lanes, but more so in ISO situations or one-on-one situations. I think the Cavs, they tried mixing it up into and incorporating spacing within traditional pick and roll. But there's definitely a lot of overlap, as you pointed out, for sure.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I think that's what a lot of it. That's a lot of how the wheel worked for Cleveland. But as I pointed out here, I thought there were ways that defenses were, found were trying to figure out solutions against guarding Cleveland. So again, as we mentioned, like there's a baseline cut that's a part of the wheel in order to free up that corresponding sink from from the wing to the corner. And one thing with Cleveland is, or on that cut, is it could bring in an additional help defender on the action. It's just I felt a lot of the time teams didn't opt to help off of that cutter and risk the gamble of potentially over helping. But and so I thought maybe that I pointed out in this article, maybe that's something that teams could look to do more often. But and I think that's what the Pacers really look to do in the series against Cleveland. If we could shift gears to that, like that's sort of what I was seeing, where um, on baseline cuts, as we will see in this play here, the Pacers would essentially ignore the cutter and allow that defender to play free safety and muck up the action. So as we see here, sorry, Ryan, would you mind rewinding just the action? Yeah, perfect. So again, on this ball screen, we'll see it's going towards the two side. And so Max Strus, who's in the corner, is going to cut baseline. So Dean Wade could slide to the corner and free up that wing. Exactly. But we see, I believe that's Ben Mathurin. Could be mistaken. Let's see.
0-0 there, yeah.
Yeah. So Mathurin is essentially ignoring Strus's cut. And since he's around the paint, he's just mucking up the action. He's taking away the roll. And as a result, Thomas Bryant can fully commit to Garland and take away that shot. And so that was sort of the theme I saw with Indiana. Even the next play will show that, where they really place an emphasis on ignoring the cutter, trying to take away the action that was happening in front of them. So let's see this play here. So yeah, similar action here. Yeah, double ball screen again towards the two side. Evan Mobley's in the dunker spot. In this case here, Siakam is he's not even worried about Mobley. He's looking to take away the action. Again, this is what we talked about, Evan Mobley's growth. A lot of the time he was able to take advantage of those one-on-one opportunities and score. But this is a win in the Pacers' eyes. They're taking away an efficient option for the Cavs and instead turning that into one-on-one offense.
There it is. Yeah, they'll take a contested mid-range hook shot pretty much every time.
Absolutely, and that was sort of their mindset. Like they're daring Mobley to take and make those shots, which he did at a high level to his credit. But that was something they're willing to live with. Another example here, or maybe this almost looks like the same play, but again, similar idea. It's Nembhard who's just going to sit in the gap, even though Mitchell and Mobley are relocating. So again, that space isn't there. And Garland, credit to Halliburton as well for staying in the play, but Garland has to take a tough spinning hook. So that was sort of the gist of what I saw. I think the other clips are pretty much the same idea.
Very cool. And you can kind of see, just like you said, that these guards need space to work with. So they're trying to create a little extra space, send guys away away from this area so there's no help defenders and they can just kind of play 2-on-2 or 3-on-2 on one side of the court. But I mean, shout out Garland even getting that shot off, but it's a very tough shot to try to make. I mean, yeah, he got like two or three people with that one pump fake. But you wanted to switch to the Pacers' Mind's Hedge?
Yeah, sure. So I thought another or a major talking point in the series was Ty Jerome. Again, he was one of the candidates for Sixth Man of the Year. and seemingly had really couldn't find his footing at all in this series. And so, just looking into it, I was curious to see, did they do anything special against him to guard him? And I think from my watch, they changed up the pick and roll coverage defending him. So Ty Jerome, to sort of give like a Spark Note summary on what made him so effective in the regular season. For him, it was getting to his floater, as we talked about with Mitchell and Garland. He's similar in that he thrives in that in between area, and so I believe the numbers. Looking at the numbers, he was second in the NBA in floater efficiency among high volume, floater takers, so to speak. So he really thrived in that in between area, especially out of pick and roll. But where he struggles is getting to the rim. Like it's no secret. Like he's not the most athletic player on the court, and so I feel like the Pacers tried combating that. If we see in this play here, if you wouldn't mind scrolling back, Ryan, yeah, thank you. So as we see, freeze it right here. Let's see, no worries. I'll let you know. Right here, perfect. Yes. So we see the angle that Miles Turner is taking in a drop. It's almost like he's inviting him to take a lane and get past him, get to the rim, which is intriguing because that's not generally what you see. Usually in a drop coverage, you see the big trying to play cat and mouse. But from my perspective, what I feel like Turner was trying to take away the pass to Mobley, as well as play higher up and take away that floater, and almost daring Jerome, knowing his athletic deficiencies, to try to challenge him and take a lane to the rim. Turner's also 7 foot, great shot blocker. He could contest shots from behind. That was sort of the idea. Next play also shows an example of that, but that's sort of the thinking with this.
Yeah, and that's a great point to notice that obviously like the easiest shot in basketball is a layup, and if you're willing to give up a layup, something's going on. Like it just feels like a Jedi mind trick from like Rick Carlisle. Like, yeah, let's just give him the layup. He can't make them. Let's try to make him make the tougher shot, which he might be better at, but we're just gonna not give him the shot that he actually wants to take,
right,
as playoff defenses generally want to do.
Right. And you're exactly right about that. Like he took more floaters and shot more efficient on floaters than he did shots at the rim last season. So I think that really factored into thinking. I think the next example we could watch that similar idea. Let's see. So Ty Jerome. Yeah. Also notice here TJ McConnell picking up 94 feet. Really making things uncomfortable. This was. Turner also, I felt like, didn't commit unless he absolutely had to. So, again, due to Jerome's athletic deficiencies, he couldn't necessarily blow by people if he didn't have a clear advantage. So right here on this screen, McConnell does a good job of sticking to Jerome's hip after the screen. So, yeah, right here. So Turner basically reads that and sees that McConnell's in a good position to contest any shot that Jerome tapes. Maybe if that's Donovan Mitchell, that's probably an advantage, and so Turner will step in and try to help. But McConnell on Jerome, he trusts that he can handle that, and as we see here, Jerome isn't able to speed past McConnell. And credit to TJ as well, does a good job staying on his hip, contesting. And again, you give up. Jerome ultimately makes this, but this is a really difficult shot. And again, conversely, since Turner doesn't step up, you don't have the option of finding Allen on the roll. Yeah. And I think we can go to the next clip, if you wouldn't mind, Ryan. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So, again, similar idea. This is in the last game of the series. Again, you see the things coming together of Turner sort of giving McConnell the angle to, almost daring him to get by and challenge him at the rim. And Halliburton does a good job of staying on Jerome's hip and contesting, ultimately blocking the shot.
And that was like an exclamation point for the Pacers at this point in the game too, because I thought the Pacers, I almost thought the Cavs were about to throw in the towel, like third quarter, give or take. Like they had given up this big lead. Pacers had grew to about almost 10 points, like double digits, give or take, if I remember right. And then like the Cavs came back. Donovan Mitchell had no quit, and quick shout out to Donovan Mitchell, just one of the toughest shot makers, scorers, just coolest players you're gonna see. Like there you can't like whatever cool move you think of on the basketball court is what Donovan Mitchell does like 20 times a game with his handles, his finishing, his the angles he takes his shots at, the bursts and explosiveness for all these, whether it's a dunk or just like a twisting acrobatic like Jordan-esque finish at the rim. So just want to shout out D Mitch because he once again did not make the conference finals. He's on this like juggernaut team where he's the face of the team. He's the 30 points a game type of scorer. Like this was his moment, and the whole team just kind of fell apart in the worst time. And you hate to see injuries hit at a time like that, and it's just really hard to overcome with just one guy. But shout him out because he must have made like, I don't know, 4 or 5 like impossible 3-pointers in this in the second half alone just to keep the Cavs in it. So one quick shout out to D Mitch.
Absolutely, well deserved for sure. Yeah. So I mean, again, like Donovan Mitchell had a heck of a series, even though he was playing through injury. I think the Pacers just did a really good job of controlling the factors they could. And yeah, I think that was it for that. And the one thing was, this reminded me of how a D2 school plays pick and roll defense. We could just go through one clip of this. Don't want to take up too much time. But the Colorado Mines, quick shout out to them. One of the better pick and roll defenses in Division II, and they make a living of this kind of coverage where they have a lot of bigs that have size and athleticism, so they almost dare you to challenge them at the rim. As we saw there, the big is essentially angling himself to give up a layup, a driving lane for the ball handler, which is almost like fool's gold since they're able to come in and contest. So quick shout out to them. That was all.
Hey, there it is. Yeah, I mean, that is a great shout out here, and it's a good way to play defense. It reminds me of like when you know you have Dwight Howard down low, and it's like, sure, come try to just drive right at Dwight, see how that goes. Right. For you. So you give up the layup if you know you have a shot blocker there that can kind of hold his own and protect it. So super interesting here. I'm glad we dived into all these plays here and some actions, learn a little bit about the Cavs and how they're kind of creating the spacing, and then how it did and didn't work so well against the Pacers in this series. And would love to hear any more thoughts you had on this Cavs and Pacers series as well, just as a whole. But shout out, the Pacers did the thing. We got to credit the Pacers right off the top. A fun fact I saw that one might not realize when looking at the full scope of the season, but the Pacers had a rough start. They were like 5-10 to start, but from January 1st, they were actually just as good as the Cavs. The Cavs were 35-14. The Pacers were 34-14, and that's since the new year. Like both being juggernauts essentially the rest of the way, and that's with the Cavs having kind of an up and down middle of the season there as well. So the Pacers have been playing like this. Credit to them. They don't control injuries. They play the team that's in front of them, and they did a lot of things that worked as well. It's not like the Cavs just like folded over because of the injuries. Like it was still a close competitive series where the Pacers. This was another one where the pace they play at is just a different level than every other team. And it's kind of weird that the Thunder, well, it's not weird because they force so many turnovers and stops that it leads to transition and fast breaks. So that's where it's coming from. But it's kind of weird because I never think of fast basketball as playoff basketball. Like you just kind of assume everything's going to grind down to half court, slow, like the best shot for the team, grind it out. And like the Pacers and the Thunder to their own degree, they just don't play that way. They're just running off everything. They even off makes. They got guys looking up to push the ball who don't normally pass the ball like that. That might be a big man or something, but they're still looking up. So like Thomas Bryant or something like that. Yeah. So just the way they play is super interesting, and we haven't shouted out everyone on their team, like Andrew Nembhard, just super stabilizing in the backcourt for them, like a very reliable guy. Like I think of Siakam the same way, with just consistency. Like you just know what you're getting from these guys night in, night out. And then Halliburton, the big X factor. Like he when he's cooking, he's cooking. He's one of the best passers and shooters like in the league, especially when he's feeling one. we shouted out, they showed that one play where he blocked Jerome that I thought was like the exclamation point for the game, goes coast to coast for a little and one layup off of that one. And yeah, the big takeaway was, I guess two takeaways for me was just them kind of the way the Pacers were able to slow down this pick and roll that we're talking about with all the spacing they create and actually contain one of the league's best offenses that we've seen. And then the Pacers stars just kind of being used to hunt and attack the Cavs stars, where the Cavs backcourt is kind of a defensive liability, and the Pacers took advantage of that. It doesn't matter how great their offense is when they're cooking, when they can't get stops out there. You end up just trying to trade buckets. So it's excuse me, there was forgot where it was. There we go. So really the hunting the Cavs guards on defense and shutting down the Cavs pick and roll, I think, on top of the injuries, which has to be the first thing said about this series, those are some of the big things that jumped out to me. And for even better breakdowns, go shout out Caitlin Cooper. She has just great work on the Pacers, talking about it, videos, reports, writing about it. So you can definitely find some in-depth reports there as well. She does great work. But yeah, I'd say mostly just came down to, like, for me, Nembhard and Siakam being consistent, then the Pacers stars being used to go ahead and hunt the Cavs guards, because if you know they might be superstars offensively, but if they can get picked on and hunted defensively for a mismatch or an advantage for the other team, that's what playoff basketball is, like, just hunting those mismatch advantages until the other team can respond and actually counter and answer something. So what stood out to you on top of the pick and roll defense that you've been mentioning, with that the Pacers were able to contain one of the best pick and roll offenses in the league?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. Andrew Nembhard has been incredible. I think again the offense is always the bread and butter for Indiana. They're statistically the second best offensive team of the playoffs. And Andrew Nembhard's been a huge factor for that. Like the Cavs really tried taking away Tyrese Halliburton, really denying him the ball, and naturally the offense went to Nembhard, and they still were able to function the way that they always do. And again, that's testament to Nembhard, his comfort handling against ball pressure, getting to his spots. He has a silky smooth game. He gets to his mid range, and again, he does it on both sides of the ball too. And so, the term Twitter uses to talk about him is playoff riser. And that's absolutely right. He really takes his game to another level in the playoffs, as do a lot of the Pacers down the line. Another guy I wanted to shout out was Aaron Nesmith. Yeah, because he's their point of attack, really like their stopper, along with Nembhard on the defensive end. And offensively, he's more of a lower usage guy, mostly playing off of the advantages that Halliburton, Siakam, Nembhard, that those guys are creating. But he does what he does really efficiently and without needing too many touches. Like he shot it really well in the Cleveland series, as Caitlin Cooper pointed out. It helped him to have a smaller guards match up against him. That's one of the other benefits of Nembhard taking a step up. Now he's commanding more matchups and allowing other Pacers to have easier, quote unquote, easier matchups against them. So Naismith's been a benefit of that, finding cutting lanes against high usage offensive players who don't have the energy to expend on defense, and also attacking closeouts, knocking down threes. He's been a huge boost. And I think Miles Turner is someone I've really grown greater appreciation for in these playoffs. Like he's such a weapon offensively, the perfect partner almost for Nembhard and Halliburton. Again, to his pick and pops. He can attack any big off the dribble and get into the lane. He's, as we talked about, he's still a pretty hefty defensive presence down low and can move his feet. And again, the theme of playoffs is versatility, and I think that's what the sort of pattern you're starting to see with these Pacers that we talked about is they just have guys that can play and function in different roles, and that it's no surprise that they're having the success they had.
Yeah, Miles Turner he's the real unicorn. Like if the real unicorn please stand up. Like that's him, because he's actually healthy and consistent, and he's been blocking shots and hitting threes for what feels like half a decade, maybe more by now. And I mean, there was a point in this season where he was one of only 4 players with X amount of blocks and threes. He was in the top 4 of that with Wembanyama, Brooke Lopez, and I want to say Jaren Jackson, but
Wow.
sounds about right. But it was just them in terms of total blocks, total threes. Like, he really is that rim protector, 3-point shooter at the 5 that basically every team wants in the draft every single year, even though like maybe he doesn't have that next level scoring versatility, a little bit of like a post up game like a Kristaps or a Chet eventually. But that's ultimately, they still want a defensive anchor rim protector who can be mobile, be active, and hit that catch and shoot corner 3. Like, there's real 2-way value in that, like, D&3 archetype, where normally it's on the wing and you don't really get an actual D&3 guy at center very often, by my count with it anyway. And yeah, the Pacers just play a different way. Like, I'm excited to see how far they can go, because I just didn't necessarily think this style would continue to work in the playoffs. But here we are, back to back conference finals appearances for them, and no clear like superstar in terms of, like, I guess, franchise cornerstone. Obviously, Halliburton, I do view kind of right on that edge in terms of having a guy, but 2 All-Stars, Siakam and Halliburton, incredible depth, and here they are. And so I have some numbers here for the series preview for the final 4 teams. We got the Thunder and the T-Wolves on one side in the West, and we got the Pacers and Knicks on the other side. And just starting with the Thunder and T-Wolves here. Off the top, so something that's interesting with all 4 of these teams is I just looked up their cleaning the glass, their 4 factors in the playoffs, and they're all top. Well, 3 of them are top 5 in point differential, but the Knicks are not. The Knicks are at 8th in point differential, and it kind of shows me that the Knicks barely edged out on the margins their way to get here, while the other teams have all been top 5 in point differential, and OKC is first. And so it's a super small sample size. It's only 2 rounds worth of games. So I was wondering during the prep, which would be more accurate for projecting playoff success: the regular season numbers, it's a bigger sample size, or the 2 rounds of playoff success or playoff numbers where the sample size is much smaller, but it's actual playoff basketball. So it's like over the last few weeks against playoff teams with the stakes, this team has been X, Y, and Z better. So that was just an interesting thought to toy around with as well. But just to hit some of the numbers for Thunder and T-Wolves, the Thunder are first in point differential. This is the playoff stats so far. So they've been the 3rd best offensive team and the 1st best defensive team, the Thunder, in the playoffs. 2nd at not turning the ball over. 1st at forcing turnovers. So quite literally top 2 in turnovers on both sides. And they've had the best defense in shooting efficiency so far this playoff. So they're just dominating the turnover margin. And that's been a huge key for them, and all those 4-point swings that we hit on earlier. And then Minnesota sneakily is really good at everything. Like, they have a really high floor because they are top 12 in every 4 factor during the regular season. It just gives them room to make more mistakes. And in the playoffs, that's continued. They're 4th in point differential, 7th on offense, and 2nd best defense. And super high on shooting efficiency on both sides. 8th on offense, 4th on defense, and then 3rd on the offensive glass, and 3rd forcing turnovers on the defensive side. So some things that stand out there is that the Thunder are 2nd at not turning it over, while Minnesota is 3rd at forcing turnovers. Something's got to give there. And then the shooting percentage, OKC has the number 1 shooting percentage defensively, while Minnesota has the 8th best shooting percentage offensively. So something's got to give there as well. So for me, off the glance, I will pick OKC in this series. But there are a few factors there where I'm interested to see kind of how they match up with an Anthony Edwards. Who do they throw at him? They do have the personnel to slow him down. Do they have someone to slow down Julius Randle and his downhill playmaking from the 4? What are your thoughts there matchup wise, who do you think might have the edge in that series?
Yeah, that's a great point you made about the turnover margins, because as you mentioned, like OKC has done a great job of controlling the possession battle, which I think is going to be huge. I think like if a major factor is like who's going to be able to force turnovers and make the stars on the opposing team like more uncomfortable. And like to me, I think OKC has the personnel um, to make Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle a little more uncomfortable than Minnesota could. Conversely, against SGA, that's sort of how I see it. Like I think that um, again, like Anthony Edwards, Randall, those guys are so good as scorers to where you need to dedicate a lot of help and almost angle the floor towards them at times, which I think uh, Golden State tried to do, but couldn't really necessarily execute as well as an OKC could. So I think that's sort of the biggest thing for me. Like uh, they're great. They've been like the best team at forcing turnovers, or the second best, and I think that's going to continue against Minnesota.
Yeah, especially, I mean, they just have so many guards to throw at Anthony Edwards. It almost doesn't matter. Like you could which one they choose to start on him, because they can rotate through 5, 6 plus defenders that can all take their turn slowing him down. And like that's a big key. Obviously, can you slow down the other team's star with all of these elite point of attack guard defenders, especially? But the big one to me, just as we're talking it out, is that Julius Randle matchup, because I don't necessarily think like Chet is, if Chet's matched up with him, I don't really think Chet's like slowing him down from getting downhill. Like Chet's more of a rim protector, help side shot blocker, and Randall's a tank. Like he's going to be able to penetrate the paint and create good looks. So I'm very impressed by Randall's success with this Minnesota team, almost immediately, especially first season, getting to this point. Trades worked a lot better than I expected it to, and a lot because Randall's been kind of given the green light as a playmaker. Like he's almost the point forward for this team, as Conley has aged out a little bit. And Ant, I also think that's been a huge reason Ant's seen an increase in 3-point percentage, is because you have one of the best 3-point assist creators now on the team, setting him up for catch and shoot looks. But his pull up 3-point percentage for Edwards is also like astronomically higher than it normally is. So he's taken a leap all around. But I do credit Randall's presence a little bit there. So I think that will be, to me, the big question mark for Minnesota's success is like, can Randall do his thing to create, essentially be the consistent offensive engine playmaker wise that this team needs, while, if you get some explosive games out of Anthony Edwards, that could really swing a few wins as well. But I would put the biggest factor more so on the playmaking of Julius. So I am interested to see if, all these Thunder defenders can kind of slow down that playmaking or cut him off as a playmaker and just kind of make the T-Wolves beat them one-on-one or in ISO. And one last shout out as well. It's officially the Alexander off here in the conference finals. The 3-syllable NWA is the rap group. NAWSGA off here in the conference finals. At the moment, the draft Twitter has been waiting for 7 years at least. Whenever he got drafted, just the 3-syllable Alexander Cousins, I guess they are.
Yeah, it's a little family feud.
Yeah,
as you could call it.
Here in the playoffs. So that'll be fun. Family house divided there for the I guess the Alexanders are the name that they both share. So
it should be fun too, because you could imagine both of them guarding each other. Like because Nikhil is great at the point of attack. I'm sure he's going to get some time on SGA, and conversely, Nikhil is also a low usage offensive player, so could see SGA on him, more of a roamer, and to sort of protect him from guarding a little bit. So yeah, it should be fun for sure.
Yeah, that'll be a real fun matchup. Just cool to see. And then I guess on the flip side is, how do the T-Wolves slow down the Thunder? Can they contain Shea as a scorer? Would be my thought, game plan wise, was just try to force someone else, like try not to turn the ball over so they beat you with turnovers and fast break points, and try to contain Shea as a scorer. Try to force OKC's other stars, other players to beat you. because that's probably their least proven aspect of their team. So just force Jalen Williams and Chet to beat you one-on-one or like as a scorer, I think is the T-Wolves' best bet. And they do have a lot of defenders to throw at Shea. I'm not sure if any one stands out, but maybe Anthony Edwards takes it personally. Maybe he's obviously an uber athlete. Maybe he's helpful on that end because he turns it up a notch. But maybe it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like you said, that is more of the defender um, who gets a look at Shea in this matchup. So, and also obviously we didn't even mention Rudy Gobert. Will he be the guy that kind of shuts down the rim for the Thunder and makes life tough for Shea? Maybe it's Jaden McDaniels, or they do have Naz Reid to throw off the bench as well. But just trying to think of names of who's actually going to slow down Shea, because I'm not sure, and he might be getting the MVP during this series, so we could see that as well. And I'd say that's probably the biggest factor for Minnesota. Was there any other maybe like a mismatch or factor for the series that prediction for you?
Yeah, I'm curious to see just another storyline, like how the double big lineups look for both teams. Because more prominently, OKC they start in high frequency play two true 7-footers, two true centers. Minnesota less so. Last year they did more so with Cat and Gobert. But again, Naz Reid is someone that gets a lot of run, especially with Gobert. And it's interesting because again, like as we talked about, SGA and Randall, all three of those guys are guys that thrive at getting to the basket, and that's sort of the double big lineup is the counter to that. It's bringing in more rim protection, more size, so that element is there. But again, with double bigs, a lot of the time it impacts your spacing more so with OKC than with Minnesota and Naz Reid, given his skill set. But again, there's some drawbacks to that as well. So, I mean, I'm curious to see, one will like Denver was sort of able to scheme out OKC's double bigs just due to Jokic and his ability to be Jokic no matter who's out on the floor. But I'm curious to see if Minnesota will be able to take that away, because whether that be through Julius Randle able to dominate individual matchups against, like you mentioned, a Chet Holmgren, or Minnesota's role players really making OKC pay for putting a 7-footer on them and roaming off. So it'll be interesting to see whether, I think more so for Minnesota, will they be able to take OKC out of playing their double bigs, or will OKC be able to be forced to go smaller like they did against Denver?
Yeah, that'll be super interesting to see. And I mean, like you said, the T-Wolves have really good depth. I mean, these are both really good teams that are really good at a lot of different things. Like they both have ranked highly in the four factors, like across the board all season, basically. Yeah, it will be interesting to see kind of the back and forth and where the counters come and what questions these teams have to answer, because that's kind of what the playoffs boil down to, is just adjustments and trying to come up with something that the other team can't find an answer for. And so we could switch over to the other series here. Pacers-Knicks, Eastern Conference Finals. Pacers are back to back in the conference finals. Off the top of my head, did the Knicks make it this far a few years ago, or was it only second round against the Hawks?
Mm-hmm. No,
yeah, it was.
I think this is their first conference finals since 2000. Actually,
yeah. So
it's been a while.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I was thinking of the Hawks series, but that was like a round earlier. So it's been a minute for these Knicks, and it's cool to see some new blood here at this stage. I have most of the stats written down, but instead of just listing them off here, in the playoffs for the four factors wise, they are the Pacers are quite literally top 10 in 3 of the 4 factors on both sides of the ball, and they're second on offense, 8th on defense, while the Knicks are 10th on offense, 6th on defense, and also top 10 in about 5 of these 8 different categories. The big one that stood out was essentially the pace that the Pacers play with and how that happens. So they play with a fast pace, and that would generally happen most often off of a missed shot or a turnover. And that is reflected in turnover percentage and rebounding percentages. So the Pacers are, let's see here, they are 10th on defensive rebounding percentage, and they are 10th at forcing turnovers, while the Knicks are ninth at the uh, just twisting this around, but basically they are both top 10, ninth and 10th in rebounding on the side of the floor where the um, the Pacers are defensive rebounding and the Knicks are offensive rebounding. So that's the delineation there. So they're both top 10 at rebounding on that side of the floor. How will that affect the Pacers' pace? Like, will they have any edge there on the rebounding to actually create more transition opportunities off missed shots? And then the turnovers are the other factor there, where Indiana ranks 10th at forcing the turnovers, while the Knicks rank 8th at not turning the ball over. So something's got to give there as well. Can the Knicks protect the ball? Can the Pacers, force a few extra turnovers? So that's kind of the big that's the matchup to me or the stat category I'm most interested, I suppose, where they're both kind of even at these things, and yet doing those things right, at least to me, kind of defines part of the pace that the Pacers play with, and their identity is playing fast off of misses and turnovers, and that this is kind of the key of how those are created. So if the rebounds and the turnovers are essentially a wash, then can the Pacers still play at the pace they need to kind of outscore this Knicks team? And while both teams are, maybe surprisingly, they've both been good on both ends of the floor, while the Knicks might be thought of more of a muddy defensive team and the Pacers more of like an all-star outrun you team, but they've both been high quality teams on both sides. So was anything there on kind of the pace stand out to you, and any other stats or general things stand out on this series for you?
Yeah, I think you make a great point. Like the turnovers and the rebounding, because that is a big factor to how Indiana generates pace. I will also mention they're number 4 in seconds of possession off of made baskets. Like they're one of the fastest teams, and as you mentioned this earlier too, just off of makes, running off of that. Interestingly, they've actually they're still the team that looks to push the most out of the teams remaining off of made baskets, but they don't do so at least as much as they did last season. I know that was a big factor in the last time these two teams met in the semifinals last year. The Pacers' early offense gave New York a lot of trouble, especially in the latter stages of the series, especially when the Knicks weren't entirely whole. So I'll be interested to see if the Pacers spark their pace and their hit aheads as much as they did last year, just given the success they had in the series. So that's definitely a factor. I'm also curious to see the Jalen Brunson, how the Knicks or how Indiana looks to contain him, because that was something they had a lot of trouble with last season, the series last year. Even though Nemhard and Neesmith, guys like that, are really capable, really able defenders, Brunson just proved to be really dominant, at least in one-on-one settings against those guys. And so towards the end of the series, the Pacers had to outright blitz him. I think Brunson had one of the highest frequencies of blitzes drawn in the latter stages of that series. So it'll be interesting to see, can the Pacers contain Brunson without giving up an automatic advantage like that? I think that's a conundrum. And as you mentioned, they are a lot better a defensive team this year than they were at this point last season. So maybe they just have more of an identity that can help them handle Brunson. But that's definitely one of the biggest names I'm looking out for right now.
Yeah, and Indiana's offensively, especially in the playoffs, they have their number 1 in shooting efficiency, second best total offense, 5th at not turning it over, and then 8th at drawing fouls. But the Knicks are 6th at drawing fouls in the playoffs so far, and a lot of that is Brunson. So can they contain him, like you said. He's just so shifty. You would hope that you can send one guy to hold him, like just contain him as a distributor. Maybe try to make him be more of a scorer or something. But even then, he's a star for a reason. He's getting this far for a reason, and he's getting the calls. Like he knows how to use his body to manipulate defenders to just get them to the points he needs them to get the calls he wants. Like if he feels a little bit of contact, the shot's going up, and that's just how he does it. But it works, and he's an efficient player while doing it, and he gets the whistle. So star players have to earn that, and he's definitely earned it. So that is definitely a big one, is how to slow down Brunson. And on the other side, I really loved what the Knicks did in the offseason. To me, they flanked Brunson with defensive stars on the wing with OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Obviously, Mikal's also become an all-star since he was known more of a defender in Phoenix. So you have like two dynamic wing scorers who can go off at any time for 20 plus and not only hold their own defensively, but be two of the more elite defensive wings. And then you also bring in this stretch five, one of the best shooting bigs in the league, and Cat. And it just feels like good floor balance on paper. And now we're seeing it play out, where they lost that season opener that everyone wrote off the Knicks for to start this season, where the Celtics like blew them out right out of the gates. They haven't won many of those regular season matchups. Then they show up and do it in the playoffs. Obviously, the Celtics going through some terrible injuries that, again, being the last team standing that's healthy and good really goes pretty far when it comes to the playoffs. It's just making it, and then staying healthy are the two big ones, it feels like. But yeah, I really love what the Knicks did, and it prepared them for this moment. Like they kind of answered what the Celtics were doing with their own form of versatility to match up well with Boston for this moment, and it worked. Whether you want to credit the injuries or the Knicks for playing who was in front of them, take your pick, but it worked. So the Knicks have made it this far because of that two-way balance, and I'm super interested to see if Indiana kind of runs them off the floor too, or if the Knicks can kind of slow them down and play the pace they want to play at, because I think that will ultimately be what kind of decides this series, because Indy can definitely hold their own in the half court too, and we'll probably see them similar to last series. I would imagine they go hunting Jalen Brunson this series, just like they did with Garland and Mitchell in the last one, where if especially given the wings that the Knicks have, maybe you hunt a Cat too, given the other defensive personnel they have out there. Shout out Mitch Robinson, who's just been holding down the Knicks since before all these stars got here. He's just been New York's own. So got to shout out Rob. But yeah, I'm having trouble kind of picking where I'm leaning in this series. Just it's the ultimate clash of styles to me. So do you have any leanings either way here?
Yeah, it's tough. Based on the regular season, it's. I mean, I think it's easier to pick the Pacers, but I think as we've seen in years past, like the Knicks, they take their game to another level in the playoffs. It's almost like they play harder than every team. Like, and Josh Hart is almost the face of that. But again, Indiana is a team that has a lot of guys that take their game to the next level as well. To me, I think it comes down to the cohesion that the Pacers have offensively. It just feels like they always have a flow. They always have a semblance of what they're doing. Whereas the Knicks almost have to work a little harder for their baskets. That's not to take away from them. That's sort of just their style. And, I think personally that inclines me to lean towards the Pacers. I just think they'll have more solutions to what they're seeing, just based on how they play. So, but I do think it will be a competitive series. It's tough too because the Knicks do have home court advantage in the series. Am I correct?
Yeah, I don't even have it in front of me, but I will double check for you.
Yeah,
the Knicks are the 3 seed and Pacers are the 4 seed, so the Knicks do have the home court.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Madison Square Garden looks in a potential Game 5 or Game 7 if the series goes there, and that could definitely swing the series. But for me, I think the Pacers are the slightly better team. I'll say Pacers in 6 if I had to.
Hey, there it is. There it is. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
about to put you on the spot. Did you pick a Thunder T Wolves winner as well?
I did not. I can pick that right now if you like.
We got to hear it. Who you got?
All right. Yeah. I mean, I think I have to go with OKC.
Yeah,
But again, after talking it through, I think I did see more of a case for Minnesota. So honestly, I could see that. I think I'll have that series going 7. I'll say OKC in 7.
there it is. I like
Yeah.
it. I think I'm right there with you with both of these winners. Just something about it's a great way to put it. The cohesion Indiana's offense is seeing right now is just it's a well oiled machine, and they are the offense that is last standing. They're not dealing with these major injuries like some of these other teams, and they very much know who they are. They know their identity, play style. And Siakam isn't new anymore. Like he's well established in that chemistry of like he's the consistent hand that gets fed first and foremost as a screener, as a roller, as a play finisher. Like perfect symbiotic partnership with Halliburton in like a pick and roll in that sense of what both of those bring to the table. So I think I am going to go with you there and lean towards the Pacers just kind of outscoring the Knicks in the style between the style of play, and I don't really think the Knicks will slow them down pace wise to get to their level as much as the Knicks or the Pacers might force the Knicks to run a little more than they want. But I do agree. I think they're both close series that could easily go 7. I probably would. I think you just said this, but I'd go Indiana in 6 and Thunder in 7 as well. So maybe I just copied you basically. Thank you
No, it's
for
great minds think alike. That's what they say, don't they?
show me how it is. There it is. So I like it. So I got OKC winning it all, I guess, against Indy at this point.
Same here.
And I don't even know. I mean, Thunder just seem unfair. So I'll go Thunder in 6 for the finals.
Yeah, I like that. I'll be right there with you.
All right, we got it. We got the same picks. We're cashing in this bet together. I
Let's do it.
appreciate you taking the time, man. It's been a lot of fun hearing your story and just talking a little NBA playoffs and hear your perspective. And thanks for hopping on the pod today, breaking down some film and talking hoops, Josh.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
You already know. Have a good one.
You too.
With Ryan.
Learning Basketball is a Swish Theory podcast hosted from Beyond the Arcade. Hey, that's me. You can find my work on Twitter, YouTube, Substack, and check out the team's writing at theswishtheory.com.